who buys from you to save money without losing quality of service. Bottom line. You agree to take two forms of currency to get the new customer. You collect your variable costs like cost of goods sold, sales tax, and cash. You collect that in cash and agree to take the difference in a credit dollar which is placed in your ICRE reserve account. You then use your credit dollars in the reserve account to purchase needs for your business, personal, or investment expenses. When you spend your credit dollars instead of cash, your net cash flow improves and you increase your business with the customer we referred to you. You know, in other words, you're saving money, and this is the bottom line. And that there is pretty much all there is. And now you don't have time to do all this. I put this in there so it would give you a frame of reference and information when you're trying to make the appointment. And the most thing is enthusiasm sells, the confidence to know that if you just get me in front of a warm body that's interested in business, we're going to sell them. And that's all this material is just to get your attitude to where you're saying, we're going to sell them, we're going to get them all, they can't get away, okay? But bring me a prospect. Don't say, do you want business, because that's not what I'm interested in. Everybody's going to tell you that. What do you learn? What do you know when they, oh, yeah, I want business. Are you aggressively seeking business? Remember I told you about Arch? I said he's aggressively seeking business. That's what I meant by that. He says, what am I doing? I don't mind paying you some money to help me get business. I'm aggressively seeking business. Some people just are not, they want business, but they're not aggressive. They won't even take credit cards. So don't hurt yourself. Okay, now that we know how to get prospects and we know what to do with them once they become members, let's talk about how we make them members. So we have an outline here, and one is a sales outline that I give you so you can kind of follow it. And just little tips like ask them if they have time to talk to them. You know, don't just start giving a presentation to someone over the phone or in person. Even when you first see the person, if you can say, oh, remember we were talking about this over the phone and you said this would be a good time to come by. Is it still a good time? You know, even over the phone. You call them, it's 12 o'clock, is this still a good time? No, something came up, I didn't have an employee show up. So never assume that these people remember what you talked about last time. And one of the things is, you know, we talk about how long we've been in business, over 20 years. That's pretty impressive because a lot of businesses are impressed to know that you're still around, you know. I mean, the average business makes it less than 5, and here we've been around over 20 years now. And projecting the amount of business, like if I come to you, Ed, and I say, I'm trying to explain to you how the trade exchange works, but I can sit back here and say, you know, Ed, I think that if you became a good member of ICRE, that we could probably do $50,000, $60,000 a year in business. So let me tell you how I think we can. So each salesperson would develop their own attitude. You might not feel comfortable saying 50 or 60. You might say 20 or 30, or you might say 100, depending on what you were thinking of the client at the time. Okay. One of the things we're going to be talking about, we talked about earlier, is how we get them new customers, and we'll talk about that a little bit. So let me take a look. What I haven't done here is put down where the inserts go in, and so I'll just have to kind of wing it here a little bit. So the first thing I have to look at is the referral, because again, this reminds you that when you're talking to someone and trying to sell them, you know, you can also get referrals at the time of the sale. You don't necessarily have to wait. Now, you won't find this referral in the appointment setting because, you know, you don't ask for referrals when you haven't made a sale. But after you make the sale, you can get the referral then, or you can wait until the seminar, you know, or any time in between. So that's why that's here. And then again, you know, the guide to explaining. Now, this question and answer section that I happen to have in the folder is in the directory itself, in the green directory. And let me give you one of these, Ed, because I wanted you to have one. And I got one extra one if you know somebody that needs one. Don't be giving those away until we can get some more made up. Yeah, sure. But anyway, in the directory in the beginning of it, there's a bunch of questions, and I suggest that the salespeople, if we have to, you could pull certain pages out of that and make copies of it that you think the salespeople ought to take a look at. You know, like they might want to feel comfortable with the rules and regulations, and they would see what kind of teeth we have in our membership agreement. But anyway, these questions and answers are kind of nice because it's some pretty basic questions and make you feel real comfortable with it. Again, this "so you tried barter and it didn't work," a lot of times this objection will come up while you're trying to talk to them after they say, "Oh, I know what you're talking about now. No, I'm not interested in that because I was a member of a so-and-so barter club." And so you have to, a lot of times I just hand people the letter and they say, "Hey, you're reading my mind." I've had them people, "You're reading my mind. That's exactly what I was thinking," And so that helps. The thing on the back of that would be the ICRE challenge. I really like this idea of the ICRE challenge. It's basically a collage of the concepts where I'm saying to you, "Hey, Rib, these are reasons why I think you should be a member." If you can think of just one, and you know where this comes from? There was a famous guy named Ben Franklin, and it's called the shopping list close. It's a shopping list close, and it's a T account, so when you look at this, it's shaped like a T. And they tell the story about how Ben Franklin came into a room, and this guy was getting ready to jump out of the window, and he says, "What the heck are you doing?" And he says, "Well, I've lost everything. I'm just going to end it all." And so, Ben Franklin was pretty sharp, so he asked him the question, "You mean your wife has left you?" He said, "No, I didn't say my wife. I just lost everything." He says, "Well, then you have that left." So he says, he drew a line. He says, "Well, let's see. You got your wife left, okay? Now, did your children? Something happen to your children? No. So you still got the children left. Did you lose your job? No. So you got a job." So he evidently knew all the questions to ask him. He had like 15 things there, and the guy finally came down. He says, "What is the reason you're jumping out of the window?" And it was like, "Well, I lost all my money in the stock market." He says, "Okay, you lost all the money in the stock market, and what other reasons do you have to jump out of the window?" And the guy says, "Well, that's it." And he says, "Well, look at this list here. You got one reason to jump out of the window. You got 20 reasons not to jump out of the window. So I don't think you should jump out of the window." And the guy says, "I think you're right." So what I'm basically saying here is, hey, here's reasons why I think you should join ICRE. Here, why don't you write down some reasons why you shouldn't? And then, can you imagine them trying to fill in that space? So that's just kind of a different approach. The next thing is we talk about the 8 concepts, which we went over already in the seminar section, so we don't really have to explain it here. So you make sure you take a look at the seminar tape. But they're in an order. Again, they're in an order for a reason, and the most important one is first. And so try to learn the concepts one at a time. And when we as salespeople are dealing with these people, instead of saying, "Do you know the concepts?" just say, "What is concept 1? How does concept 5 work? Explain to me how you would make advertising work all the time." And if they can't explain it, then they have something to learn. Again, the cost is important. It's important for the salesperson to know that there really isn't a cost, and you can explain it to where the person understands that it doesn't cost them to be a member. That it actually pays. And then the restaurant guide, I just thought that's a good handy thing to come in. You can pick this up off the internet. And again, I would suggest that we tell everybody to look at the introduction side of the internet, and then go to the member side and read the material and read the directory, and they pretty much got it all down. We've actually got some push lists. This is just one of them, which is restaurants, because a lot of times we have restaurants that we're looking to sign up. And this is like 2 pages of things that restaurants could use from A to Z that they can spend their credits on. So when you're talking to a restaurant, you could just hand them this list, and like actually Arch that was in here was asking me that question. I really need to send him this, so I'm going to lay it out right here to remind me so I could email him that. And then here's a copy of the contract. I think it's a good idea. You can actually have people sign up over the internet, but have them study the contract and let them know what each line says, so it's not familiar, so they'll know where the prospect will sign, or the customer is going to sign, and any questions they might develop. Another thing we're going to do, Ed, is take this contract and let's get a hold of the printer, Terry Bass or whatever, and see if he can print us up some carbon copies, because I think it's a good idea to leave a copy of what these people sign. I think that's a good idea. So that's pretty much self-explanatory. Then we have the 2-minute infomercial. We went over that during the seminar, and that's important to know, because you're telling people, hey, Ed, you get a chance to get up in front of a group of people, and it's a good selling point. A lot of people look forward to getting in front of a group of people. Then we have the brochure, because that comes in handy, because a lot of times when you're done with the sales presentation, you got to give them something, so you give them the brochure. And the same thing is true of the stuff we mail out, the letter explaining it, which is similar to what the brochure has in it, a copy of the products and services list, and a copy of the website, what they call links. Now, there's not too much left here, but let me just see if I've left anything out. Common sense things, like when you're setting an appointment, make sure you get all the information, like how to get a hold of them and the time to call them and all that. We're going to be talking about getting them to these meetings where we buy them lunch or dinner. The term no-risk trial membership is pretty good. Hey, we got a no-risk trial membership. This new thing we're talking about of letting you pay your membership. Let's say we're going to charge you $1,000 for a membership. And what we're going to be doing is giving you 1,000 credits if you pay your $1,000 up front. Okay, and the way we're going to do that is that we're going to take 500 of the $1,000 and buy the credits, and then let the salesperson have the other 500. So that way, that's a little better than what you started with. Wouldn't it have been nice if you'd have paid your membership and got 1,000 credits? So that's something recently I decided that we maybe do for a special. And can you see how that would be exciting? So no risk trial membership. And debit credit card is another thing that's a buzzword, that this is more like instead of a credit card, it could be a debit credit card. Use that terminology. Again, I like the idea of tell them what you're going to tell them, and then tell them what you told them. And many times that's going to help, because they won't necessarily have a tape to look at. Another term, this is a promotion for your business, using the term promotion. What's in it for them? I always tell the story about WOOFM. It's called WOOFM, what's in it for me. They got these initials on their forehead. Tell me what's in it for me. So how do you get me customers? How do you save me money? Why is this such a good deal for me? That's what they're saying to you all the time. Another thing is wholesale buying club. That's, because we're kind of like, it's actually a cost buying club. Okay, so this is just a little information that will help you give the presentation that we'll be giving in person. Then we want to send them a brochure. Just send them information. You can send them that barter letter. You can send them a brochure. You could send them a products and services list. Just pick different things you think would be available that would be a good idea for them.
We're just about out.
Give them the same consideration that you would want them to give you, and vice versa. Hey, I'm just trying to sell you something. Give me a chance to talk to you. You'd want me to give you that opportunity type thing, that attitude. Let's see. Going over the concepts, we went over those, the cost, the contract. Inviting them to a meeting is probably essential. If you could just get them to a meeting, if anything else, that would help make the sale. And here's how you can get involved with ICRE. You set up a time to get the check. You ask for the sale. Here, I'm ready to get you started. We want to start sending you customers right away. We want to save you money today. Why wait? Why put it off? Okay. Well, we're ready to finish this thing up, and we'll be able to add it on to that last tape here for sure. But the interesting thing about appointment and selling presentation is there should be some type of close. So on the appointment setting, it's like, hey, we'd like to talk to you over the phone or come see you in person. Is Tuesday around 10 o'clock a good time for you? Well, in this case, we're going to be asking for the sale, and you're going to have more than enough information to make the sale, because I think the sale kind of closes itself. So I read this close before, and it has 6 parts, and I'm going to try to remember them because I've committed them to memory. And it's called the smoke-out close, and basically it's designed to help a salesperson get a check or get the name on the line that are dotted. You ever heard of that? Put a name on that, right on that line that are dotted. You know. So the first part is to hear them out. In other words, a lot of times when a salesman's listening to someone, he wants to jump right in there. They say, okay, I got to talk to my wife. Oh, okay, well, you really don't need to talk to your wife. Blah, blah. You know, in other words, the guy hasn't finished talking and you're trying to answer the objection. So try to just, we know you know the answer to the objection. So just kind of be quiet, let the guy finish, let the woman finish, let whoever's talking finish. And they'll say, yeah, I really want to talk to my wife, but on second thought, I probably need to talk to my accountant, or maybe I don't need to talk to my accountant. Maybe I just need to think about whether I can afford it or not. But once they wind down, then you've heard them out, and the next thing to do is to agree with them. A lot of times people jump right from, miss those first 2 points. They don't hear them out, and they just start answering the objection. But let me tell you this about sales. Sales is like 2 knights battling, and you're sitting there and you got your sword here and you got your shield over here, and and you've got a knight in front of you, and you take off and you go to whack him like this, and when he sees that sword coming, he goes like this with the shield. And so when you're trying to whack him with a sales comment, he's throwing that shield up like this. So as soon as he says, well, I got an objection, they throw their shield up like this, saying, okay, hit me with that answer to that objection. I know it's coming. And when you say, I agree with you, I'd want to talk to my wife if I were you. I'd want to talk to my accountant. I think you should think this over. It's like they can't believe their ears. They pull their shield down like this, and they think, what does this guy mean? You mean you're not going to hit me with the sword here, guy? So that kind of disarms them a little bit if you stop and think about it. So you're thinking, I'm going to start answering an objection. I'm thinking, I agree with you, Ed. You're right. I agree. And so by agreeing with them, then the next thing you do is confirm what you thought they said. It's called confirming the objection. And so now let me see if I understand you correctly here. You're saying that once you talk to your wife, you're going to give me an answer. Or you're saying you have to talk to your accountant, or you repeat whatever the objection was, and now is that what you said? And then you wait for him to say, yes, that's what I said. Now what have you done? You've confirmed the objection. And he says, yeah, that's the objection. You got it. Okay. Now what are you going to do? You're going to do what you started to do in the first place. You're going to answer it, but you're going to answer it at the right time. So when people start giving you objection, you miss out half of the whole close. You just go right to the close. You don't even, and you know what happens? You create antagonism. So if you remember this, whether you're selling ICRE or anything, just not get in a hurry, and don't antagonize them by doing these things. Now, the next thing you do is you're going to answer the objection after you've confirmed that that was the answer. Oh, by the way, let me just think about this. And then you give them the answer to whatever that objection might be, and your sales manager can tell you what the answer to the objection is. And you say, well, let me say this. I'm just using the wife objection sometimes, but I think there's 2 wife objections. There's the smoke screen wife objection, which is not really a wife objection, and this will work on that. And there's the other one that the wife pretty much tells them what to do, and they run the company. So that person, you're going to have to go talk to the wife. You're not going to be able to sell the spouse if the other spouse is in charge of the business. But in many cases it is a smoke screen, and so they say, well, listen, one of the things I want to mention to you, like with ICRE, is you don't have to give us any money. You can try this, and if you don't like it, you don't have to pay for it. You don't have to stay a member. We can't make you stay a member, but we'd like to start sending you business. You go tell your wife, hey, hon, I joined your organization. I didn't have to give them any money, just pay as we go. I mean, how's she going to complain about that? And we can start sending you customers right away. So, and then you listen to the answer. That's the next thing you do. You've answered the objection, and then see if they agree with your answer. So what do you think about that? You say, after thinking about it, you're right. that's not really a good reason for me not to buy today. Okay, and then there's only one thing left to do. Ask for the sale. And when I first learned this, the guy that was teaching, he said, you know, I've walked into many places, and I think we as salespeople walk in, and this guy's ready to buy, but nobody's ever asked him to buy. They kind of like this, avoided it. You know, it's called cognitive dissonance, where people put off a person making a decision because they don't want to run the risk that they're going to say no, so they never give them a question that they can say no to, so they don't close them. And in many cases, you say, hey, listen, what I'd like to do is to have you for a client. I'd love to have you start sending you some customers, saving you money. Is there any way that we can get you to become a member today and start sending you business right now? You know, so you ask for the sale. So if I can remember that, number one, hear them out. 2, agree with them. 3 is confirm the objection. 4 is answer the objection. 5 is agree, get them to agree with your answer. And then 6 is ask for the sale. And that's about all there is to closing. And that's about it.